Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining DREF for the May webinar on mental health. I think everybody knows why we're here today, but I thought I would give you a few statistics. Anyone on the phone who's experienced the last 2 years or 2.5 years now of COVID, social unrest, police brutality, have either been traumatized or you're numb. Whether you experienced adverse childhood reactions of violence, neglect, abuse, witnessing violence, or death of a family member, you've been traumatized. Statistics show that 1 in 20 of the population have a severe mental illness. 1 in 15 suffer from substance use disorder and mental illness. 12 million people this year had serious thoughts of suicide. 26.3 million people actually received virtual mental health services. For those 12 and older, there's been a significant increase in alcohol and drugs related to COVID and coping. If you're a healthcare provider, because I know there are a few out there, 73% live in fear every day that the work they do will cause the death of a family member. 58% are concerned with their own mental health, and 29% go to work every day scared. And so my goal today is to teach you some mechanisms to cope. So welcome this evening to our event. All of Us research program via the Delta Research and Educational Foundation is run by those you see on this screen. They've worked diligently over the 5 years to ensure that we educate the African American community and the community at wide on the importance of clinical research. NIH chose these 12 wonderful cities that you see on the screen to do exactly what we're doing here tonight, educating the community. Good evening again. My name is Yvonne Collins, and I serve as the Chicago Citywide Coordinator for the Delta Research and Educational Foundation Research Matters for All of Us. DREF, as we'll refer to it from here out, was established in 1967. It is a major nonprofit organization really working to support African American women to build stronger families. This campaign is built around awareness of health, awareness of wellness, and really continued education of the African American community with the hopes of decreasing healthcare disparities. Let's watch this video on what we've done over the last year.
In 1967, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated established the Delta Research and Educational Foundation as a public charity supporting scholastic achievement, public service programs, and research initiatives focused upon African American women and their families. Today, DREF remains strong, vibrant, and poised to meet 21st century challenges with the same unwavering spirit and dedication the sorority originally envisioned. The charge to realize social and economic equality for future generations of African American women continues.
I'm going to stop the video for a moment because I am getting some messages that you guys cannot see the video. So I'm going to start over to ensure that I have enabled all of the audio, which I thought I did, but we'll make sure.
Continues as the guiding principle. Since 2017, DREF has received funding from the National Institutes of Health to continue its role as a national community engagement partner to promote the All of Us research program through a community awareness campaign that informs African Americans and minorities about the importance of understanding and participating in biomedical research. The National Health Initiative, conducted by the Delta Research and Educational Foundation in collaboration with Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated and the National Council of Negro Women, is entitled Research Matters, Creating Possibilities to Achieve Health and Wellness for All of Us. The objectives are to engage, educate, and ultimately enroll African Americans in the National Institutes of Health All of Us 1 in a Million campaign, a national database primarily comprised of diverse and traditionally underrepresented populations. The mission of the All of Us research program is simple. It is to speed up health research and medical breakthroughs by asking 1 million people to lead the way to provide the types of information that can help create individualized prevention, treatment, and care for all of us. The All of Us research program is a part of the Precision Medicine Initiative created during President Obama's administration. Precision medicine is healthcare that is based on you as an individual. It takes into account factors like where you live, what you do, and your family health history. Precision medicine's goal is to be able to tell people the best ways to stay healthy. If someone does get sick, precision medicine may help healthcare teams find the treatment that will work best. This will help give healthcare providers the information they need to make tailored recommendations relevant to people of different backgrounds, ages, or geographic regions. African Americans continue to have some of the highest incidence, prevalence, and mortality rates from chronic diseases such as cardiovascular disease, diabetes, obesity, hypertension, mental health, and HIV/AIDS. Yet we comprise only 5% of clinical trials participants in America. Our focus and objective is to create awareness about how research matters in closing the health disparities gap. DREF seeks the assistance of national organizations, local chapters, sections, community leaders, and organizations to make the All of Us research program a successful endeavor. The influence, leadership, and participation of the aforementioned groups are needed to assist in promoting this groundbreaking opportunity. Individuals, groups, and organizations are welcome to assist with conducting and/or identifying outreach activities. Training, materials, and monetary resources may be available to support groups and organizations with approved collaborations. Please send an email of interest to researchmatters@deltafoundation.net outlining upcoming activities and events in which the All of Us research program can be included. For more information, please visit www.joinallofus.org/DREF.
And so our engagement events just like this happen twice a month. We invite the community, we invite our family, we invite a broad community organizations, all with the goal of educating so that we can accrue that 1 million diverse participants. So what is the NIH All of Us research program? Well, it's a historic endeavor and it's longitudinal, but you heard it exactly right. The aim is to gather 1 million diverse groups of participants to help accelerate medical advances. That is African American, Latinx, Asian, seniors, LGBTQIA, but all of those populations that have routinely not been studied, we want to study in this research program. Let's listen to this.
So tonight I'm launching a new precision medicine initiative to bring us closer to curing diseases like cancer and diabetes, and to give all of us access to the personalized information we need to keep ourselves and our families healthier.
So imagine what we could do with precision medicine. Let's watch this video about African Americans who participate.
My name is Janelle Johnson. I'm a biologist in the Laboratory of Neurogenetics for the National Institute on Aging within the National Institutes of Health.
Dr. Janelle Johnson has long had an interest in neuroscience, especially in neurodegenerative diseases.
My focus is on the genetics of neuromuscular diseases, in particular ALS, but I also study neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease.
Developing treatments for these diseases, treatments that are geared to the individual person, is also one of Dr. Johnson's goals.
Research has advanced to the point where personalized medicine has become a reality. And when I say personalized medicine, I mean that specific traits that you might have are more easily targeted by particular drugs. As researchers, we can target those drugs and find the best possible solutions for your diseases.
To find these solutions, scientists need to conduct clinical trials, research studies with volunteers, to see which treatments are safe and effective, and for whom.
If African Americans participate in research studies, they have the opportunity to treat or ultimately cure diseases. If not, we won't be sure if the current studies will apply to them.
Dr. Johnson says that more African Americans are needed for these studies, but there is sometimes reluctance to participate in clinical trials.
African Americans are often fearful of participating in clinical trials, and I think this largely has to do with the Tuskegee syphilis study, which lasted for about 40 years, so a lot of people were impacted by that.
However, today protections are in place that make participating in a study a very safe experience.
I think that African Americans can take time to educate themselves and others about the clinical trials that exist and the informed consent process.
So what is precision medicine? You heard a little bit about it, but precision medicine takes you as an individual. It takes your lifestyle, it takes your genetics, it takes your socioeconomics, your environment, your biology, your disease, and allows us to target some specific areas and really shifts how we treat you. Precision medicine is now knowing that a woman has a triple negative breast cancer that's susceptible to a PARP inhibitor. We're able to give her a very specific medication to treat that cancer. Imagine what we could do with precision medicine in other diseases. Our HPO is not here today, but each city has healthcare organizations that participate with them and actually obtain the samples. And on the screen, you can see those are the institutions here in Illinois that participate with the All of Us research. And this is considered our Illinois Precision Medicine Consortium. Prior to going into any of those facilities, you can enroll and consent. You can even authorize your electronic medical record to talk with the research system. You answer some basic surveys about your habits, your overall health, your family history. You then take measurements because we want to know your blood pressure, your BMI, your heart rate, waist circumference, and then provide samples based on the diverse sampling and capacity. It may be blood, it may be urine. And then also, if you wear any of these handy dandy wearable devices like Apple Watch or Fitbit, you can also consent to have that data shared. And so imagine you can have a physician take all of this information, of course, de-identified so no one knows it's you, and they're now able to study the disease. We learned very recently that the research is actually being used now. So the hopes is that perhaps as we're studying genetics or various medications, we're able to do targeted studies on, say, the African American population or the Asian population, when very commonly before now, we could not do any of that. So again, if you're interested at all, you can go to the internet and type in joinallofus.org/Illinois if you're local, or just joinallofus.org anywhere in the nation, and you can be connected to a center. Again, if you want more research related to what DREF is doing, you can scan the QR code above, or you can go to www.joinallofus.org/DREF, and you can like any of our social media outlets. But please get more information and be informed. You can also email me, Yvonne Collins, your Chicago Citywide Coordinator, should you have any questions or concerns, or if you're having an event that you would like us to join you at. Before I bring on our main speaker, I must read you this disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed by the guest panelists and or presenters do not reflect the views or opinions of the Delta Research and Educational Foundation, DREF. DREF Research Matters for All of Us, the NIH All of Us Research Program, or any of its affiliates. Again, thank you for joining us, and I think you are in for a real treat. Dr. Alana, you're going to bring up slides. I'm going to stop sharing so you can bring up your slides as I do your introduction. So I'm happy to bring you this evening Dr. Alana. She is a trauma psychiatrist and a world-renowned trauma psychiatrist with really a focus on helping people deal with their trauma. So all of those things that I mentioned at the beginning, you're going to learn some skills tonight on how to better cope. She's a graduate of Xavier University of Louisiana, Baylor University of Medicine, XU. And so we are so delighted to have her. She spent 12 years working with veterans to really help them overcome PTSD. And really, she's opened her own nonprofit now to really teach us skills over pills. As you know, very commonly, pills are pushed for behavioral health symptomology, but I want you to learn some different skills tonight. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Alana, who's going to teach us how to use empathy to cope. Dr. Alana, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. And I'm just so excited to be here. And as a member of Delta Sigma Theta, I am so proud to see the work that Delta is doing in this category. And I'm just honored to be here. So thank you for having me. Oh, my sister friends, they're wonderful. Well, thank you all for being here today. Are you able to see the screen okay? Give me a little shout out in the chat. If
You
you
are
are
all good.
okay, wonderful. So just today, we have had another mass shooting at a school. I don't know if you knew, but once again, we find ourselves in a position to mourn our children and to scratch our heads and ask, what is wrong with the humans? So this is my, I'm going to give you the shortest version that I can of explaining what's wrong with the humans and what you can do to help. I do believe strongly that empathy is the cure for what ails humanity today. If you have questions or anything, you can drop them in the chat. I can see your chat, and let me know if there's anything else that you would like to have explained, because I want this to be interactive. I miss talking to people, but I do like having this virtual thing because COVID is going back up, y'all. Wear your masks, okay? Invisible things are real. All right, so we must redefine the concept of psychological trauma. The way most people have been taught to think about trauma is the way that the current mental health industry thinks of trauma, which is, just every, few people here and there. You got to have something so bad that you have PTSD, the type of stuff you see in the movies, you see on The Punisher or something. You have to be extreme for people to give us credit for having trauma. Well, guess what? Trauma is pervasive. Trauma is baked into the fabric of our society, our global society. I used to say America, but y'all, we're a hot mess. I don't know about y'all, but this is me on most days with my little stress ball, like praying, all right, Lord, deliver us. We know not what we do, okay? We have to update the way that we think about psychological trauma in order for us to heal. You can't fix a problem that you haven't even acknowledged. And we have not acknowledged the pervasive level of traumas that we're experiencing. We're experiencing climate change. We're experiencing unnatural disasters. We're experiencing gun violence, political violence. Matter of fact, you can get on your television, pick up your phone at any given time and traumatize yourself with today's local news. And then you can go traumatize yourself on social media too. Anything that you experience as so negative that it changes the way you think about yourself, the world, and other people is traumatic. Racism is traumatic. Gender violence is traumatic. Being invalidated and the world telling you that the way you experience your body, your life, your mind is invalid or incorrect or somehow not supposed to be, that is traumatic. So trauma is a psychological experience that every human being on earth has multiple times over. If you've ever been through a divorce, been divorced, been around people who are going through a divorce, my point is that everyone has trauma. So we can all take a step back and relax and realize that we do not need to stigmatize something that is a part of the human experience. Now, I know you know who you are, but let me tell you who you really, really are. Let me introduce you to yourself. You have the anatomy of a powerful creator. You are animal, human, and spirit. Yes, I said it. You are an animal. You have biological biological basis. We just saw a beautiful presentation about the need for precision medicine and research. So you have a physical body and you also have a psychology that consists of your thoughts and your feelings and your action choices. And then you have the body that you manifest those things with. So you are a powerful creator. So all of us have this physical self that consists of our body, our brain, our organs, but we also have a psychological self that consists of things like our thoughts, our emotions, and our mind. Now, we know that those things are there. If you close your eyes and nobody's talking, you can still hear something. You still hear yourself. Sometimes you hear things other than yourself. The brain is very powerful. It's okay. But guess what? You primitive. You didn't know that? Nobody ever told you this? Guess what? Hashtag primitive. You didn't know you were going to come on here today and somebody was going to tell you that you're primitive. But yes, you are, because we have not been taught about all of these primitive parts of this very powerful, beautiful, amazing technology that is the human brain and body. And when you don't know about a thing, how can you control it? It's like trying to drive a Klingon spaceship. So I'm going to give you a crash course in your own brain. If you have some paper, you can write this down. However, I made it easy for you. I created a free mini crash course called Primitive Brain Systems that's available on my Trauma Recovery Academy. And my assistant is going to drop the link so that you all can access that and you can learn more about your primitive body and brain. So if my slides would advance, you have 6 important parts of your brain that you really need to know. Now, these parts of your brain are parts that have been part of humans for the millions of years that we've been here on Earth. The Human Genome Project that was completed in 2003 showed that we have 6 billion pieces of DNA that make up every single human being, and 99.9% of our genetic markers are the same. There's very little difference between me and you and any other human being on Earth. Therefore, all of our brains work remarkably the same as well. However, our brains are complex. So I'm not saying that these are the only parts of your brain, but I'm saying these parts are extremely crucial because they are predictably programmed by your traumatic experiences that you go through. And I'll go through these quickly, and then I'll go through each one in a little bit more detail. But these brain systems are the reticular activating system, the amygdala, the somatosensory cortex, the brain reward system, mirror neurons, and biochemical matrix. These 6 parts of your brain make up a great deal of what you experience in your everyday life. The first the first part of your brain that you need to know about is the amygdala. The amygdala is the part of your brain that creates your emotions. And it doesn't just create fear-based emotions, although it's very good at doing that. And fear is driving human society right now. We are walking amygdalas. Okay, I'm sorry. I got to stay focused. Okay, I get excited about this stuff because we really need to understand it. Your amygdala is super powerful, but it does not generate how you feel on the inside based on any objective reality. It creates the emotions based on what you believe about what is happening in any given situation. That means that if you've been taught to believe that the world is against you and that people are trying to replace you, you might be very hateful and angry and carry it out on other people because of what you may have been taught to believe. Our beliefs are operative. Therefore, those emotions, whether they are fear, anger, hatred, jealousy, or happiness, excitement, calmness, peacefulness, joy, all of those emotions are created by our amygdalas. Now, we have a problem because we've been taught that our emotions come from where? Drop some stuff in the chat of where people think their emotions come from. I'll wait. I'm a teacher first, so I, I will totally wait until somebody drops some stuff in the chat. People say it comes from the heart, right? People say emotions come from life experiences, the gut, right? People say other people make me happy, right? Find somebody that makes you happy. Find somebody that makes you sad. Nope, that's not it. Your emotions come from your amygdala. They come from your limbic system. Now, your emotions are invisible sensations that flow throughout your body. So your emotions can be your stomach churning when you're anxious. It can be your heart hurting when you missed your boo or broke up with somebody that you really thought you was going to be with. Your emotions can be headaches and stress filled, but your emotions come from your amygdala. No one else creates your emotions, but we've been taught to blame our emotions on other people, life experiences, God, and the devil, and it's just not how it works. It's just not how it works. So you have to learn how to control a thing, and the first step is knowing where it comes from. You're welcome. The reticular activating system, your RAS, the part of your brain that acts as a filter that helps your brain to bring only into your awareness the things that it absolutely feels like it needs to consider. Now, here's the tricky part. Your reticular activating system is also like everybody having on an invisible negative space bubble helmet. I have these glasses that are like transition lenses. And sometimes they transition when I'm inside the house and I'm looking around like, why is everything so dark? And I have to blink and be like, oh, because I have on these glasses that tint things. Your reticular activating system is tinted by your psychologically traumatic experiences. When you experience painful things, your brain then becomes more aware of them and sends them more into your focus and filters other things out. Now, the good news is that you can adjust the dial and you can tune your reticular activating system if you know you have it. But if you don't, then you will just think that your perspective and the way that you experience the world is accurate. And I have news for you, it's not. All humans are a little semi-delusional because we have not been taught how our brain processes information and what it does to our psyche. Okay, it's scary out there, y'all. But guess what? You're gonna know it. So now, next, your somatosensory cortex. This part of your brain is responsible for registering pain. It does not differentiate between physical pain, like somebody slapping, punching, or kicking you or poking you, or psychological pain, somebody slapping you or poking you or kicking you verbally or even physically, because that does happen too. We need to go back to kindergarten because folks can't keep their hands to themselves these days because their amygdalas go off. What is this? Anyway, your somatosensory cortex does not differentiate between words that hurt or even thoughts that hurt. So if you pay attention to your somatosensory cortex, you may be able to recognize where things that you say slap other people or things that other people say to you may be slapping you. 99% of psychological trauma is psychological, is non-physical. Certainly things happen that affect our physical body, and I don't take anything away from that. The things that we say create a great deal of damage. So watch your words, creator. All right, now it's important to understand that everyone has a somatosensory cortex, and that means that if you are not paying attention to the sensations that you feel, it's because you're desensitized to trauma You're desensitized to pain. We have so much of it. It's so ingrained in our culture. Many of us grew up in households where, you know, we lucky that if we got away with just words, like knock you upside your head most of the time. So we are not used to respecting the subtleties of what happens inside of us. But whoever says sticks and stones may break your bones, but words will never hurt you, did not know about their somatosensory cortex. Come on, y'all. We got to update. We got to aim higher. The next brain system you need to know about is your brain reward system. Your brain reward system is your dopamine system. Dopamine is our powerful feel-good chemical, and everybody has dopamine, okay? Everybody. It's part of the human experience. Therefore, everybody has addictions. Ooh, I know people don't like it when I say that, but it's true. Every time you watch a commercial and you see that that steak and lobster, and you like, ooh, and all of a sudden your car drives into that restaurant. Yes, dopamine, okay? Every time you wake up first thing in the morning and you grab your phone, you're going for that dopamine. Every time you got to get your smoke, or you getting your drink, or you getting your high fashion clothes on, maybe you're buying something and you're getting that dopamine. We're addicted to so many things. We're addicted to money, salt, sex, sugar, other people, our kids, fun. We're addicted to being right. We're addicted to being violent. We're addicted to winning. We're addicted to a lot of things. And if we have societal community addictions, they often go unchecked and unnoticed because so many people have it that we normalize it. But it does not mean that physically that your body is not being driven by these internal sensations that are responses to dopamine. So the important thing is not whether or not you have addictions, is what am I addicted to? What is it doing to me? Where do I get my dopamine? And just know, you see my little guy, he's got a red ear and a green ear. You can get dopamine from positive things, and you can get dopamine from negative things. It's easier to get dopamine from the negative than it is to get it from the positive. Ooh, come on. Y'all don't want to talk about it. I'm not going to tell anybody. That's okay. We're on virtual. Nobody has to know what's happening over there. Just don't tell them. Okay. All right. Mirror neurons. Mirror neurons are the part of our brain that helps soak up information from the environment. Mirror neurons help us to soak up sounds. We soak up words. Have you ever heard somebody singing a song and then all of a sudden it's stuck in your head? You're like, oh my gosh, why can't I stop thinking about it? Or every time I go to New Orleans, I find myself picking up my Louisiana accent. The minute I get in town, it's like, man, it just comes out. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Okay, well then, all right, okay. Anyway, but it happens because our brains are so influenced by our environment, and we pick up the belief systems around us. We pick up the words, the thoughts, and the phrasing that is used, especially from people who are influential in our life. Because of confirmation bias, which is our strongest bias, our brain emphasizes things that come from sources that we trust or that already fit our belief system, and it devalues things that come from sources that we trust less or things that do not fit our belief system, even if those things have all the evidence in the world. So mirror neurons also are about us soaking up information from our family environment, whoever raised us, the people in our community that we looked up to, whether they were great examples or not, they were still role models. Your brain doesn't know any different. You also soak up information from what you watch on the television, the way that you see the cartoons interact and the people interact. You soak up things from the way that your pastors and your preachers and the sports figures and the politicians and the other figures in your life talk and think. However, if you're not careful, those mirror neurons are easily programmed by your environment, and they also have a lot to do with how your brain processes information and how your amygdala creates the emotional response inside of you. Watch what you let yourself be programmed by. Your biochemical matrix is the part of it's my Dr. Lana term for all of the juices and the hormones that our body generates like adrenaline, testosterone, estrogen, but also cortisol, like stress hormone. Lots of people are saying, man, I feel so fuzzy. I feel like time is either going too fast or too slow. I'm gaining weight. All of those things are in part because we have so much cortisol from all of the traumas and the stress and the constant shenanigans that we're experiencing. I don't think we know healthy right now. But getting to know these hormones and chemicals is really important because they expand and they extend the emotions that we feel. Now, I talked about those 6 parts of the brain, but you've got one part of your brain that can rule them all, like the Lord of the Rings ring. You got one part of your brain, but guess what? It's barely functioning. Tap your prefrontal cortex, wake it up for me, please, because I need to live in a world where humans know how to use their prefrontal cortex, and I know you want to too. We are only using 10 to 15% of our prefrontal cortex. That is a paltry amount of our prefrontal cortex that we're using. Normally, our primitive brain is creating all of these thought processes and these responses and reactions. And because we barely even know that we are these powerful creators, and we have not been taught to understand our brain, our body, and our behavior, we are allowing those primitive brain systems and those primitive thought processes to dominate the way that we talk, think, and interact with each other. So we are experiencing what feels kind of like hell. Okay. Now, prefrontal cortex, what can we do about it? This part of our brain, every single functional human being on earth has a prefrontal cortex. Now, it does not fully mature until we're about 24, 25 years old. So have some grace and mercy for the children in your home who have very immature prefrontal cortexes. Okay. And think about all the decisions that you've made before you turn 25. Yes, the maturity age is about 25 for men and women. So just forgive yourself right now for all the decisions that you made before you were 25. You'd be like, ooh, I didn't even know that I had a prefrontal cortex. And I know that joker was not fully working when I did that. It's okay. It was just primitive. You didn't know. So we have to activate this prefrontal cortex. So I'm going to help you. I'm going to teach you one of my empathy skills. Now, there's a lot more of these that you can learn. You all can come learn from me more at my next event, the Trauma Cure, which is June 22nd through 24th. But since this is a crash course and I don't have much time, I'm going to get right to it. We need to embrace and own our individual and collective traumas. It's time. It's painful. It's going to hurt to talk about it, but we must learn how to heal. Because the moment that we're done with trauma thinking, we can take off those tinted traumatic lenses. And yes, there's isolation, there's disappointment, there's hurt and pain, but there is also a lot of beautiful things. There's a lot of hope. There's a lot of resilience. There's a lot of love out there. So in order for us to heal, we must begin to use more empathy. Empathy being not just being aware of emotions and connected to people's emotions, but empathy being truly operating in love and taking the perspective of the other person and really taking yourself out of your own perspective. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for just a moment because I really want to emphasize one thing. I really want to emphasize that empathy is love in action. And the reason that I say that empathy is love in action and why this is so important is because it is not our natural state right now to operate in empathy. We are sorely lacking in empathy skills as a society. And yes, definitely, if you would like to turn your cameras on, I invite you to join me for this part of the conversation. If you're willing, it's always good to see faces and see y'all and be able to, interact with real people. So I appreciate that. But truly, we are in a space where our society is struggling. We in primitive mode. I'm with you, Nikki. Right? We're really struggling right now, and it's it even sounds to me like how can empathy be so impactful to really get us where we need to be? But the reason that I say empathy is so important is because in order to help somebody, in order to heal something, you have to be willing to understand where it's coming from. I don't want to think like that young man that I don't even know his name and I don't even care. I don't even the dude that did the Buffalo massacre. But in order for me to understand why he's so damaged that he would do what he did, and to be able to move into the spaces that allows us to heal those people and make them not be a terroristic threat, we have to be willing to understand where they're coming from, what they're being programmed by, and how to speak to the deficits that exist in them and exist in their life, because they're still creators, just like me, just like you, and they're out there creating stuff. There is no plan that will work that is eliminate any demographic of humans. All the humans are just, we're very tribal, okay? We look at other people and we're like, okay, homelessness is bad, but I keep driving, what do we do, right? And we donate some money here and there, and then we go, but there's so many problems in the world. And then we do that for the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And we only seem to really get engaged in these in struggles when we really when it's something that hits us, right? Like when breast cancer is hitting our communities, and then we like, okay, now we really got to do something about it. Lance Armstrong wasn't doing no Live Strong until he got cancer, and then he was like, wow, this really affects me and a whole lot of people. And then he got into cancer stuff. So as humans, we have this tendency to remove ourselves from problems as if they're other people's problems. They're really not our problems, and that's just not going to work, because at this point, if it's my problem, it's your problem too. Okay. We're so connected globally. We're so connected that if it's a war on the other side of the world, guess what? It's affecting us too, right? There is no space where we can go now where it's just an option to just try to stay to yourself and not do something about the shenanigans and the mess going on in the world. So the love skill is really designed to help you to be able to have a tool to reach into your bag for, because I'm going to tell you, this is exhausting. I'm exhausted. If I could hang up on the world, right? Just click. Yeah, not dealing with y'all no more, because humans are acting a hot mess right now. But I know that I want to live in a healthy world. I know I want to pass a healthy world to my children. I know I want racism dealt with. I want this gender crap dealt with. I want people to be able to live in peace. And I'm pretty sure that all of y'all want to be able to live in peace too. So using the love skill is really a way for you to take control of your own animal. Take control of all of this stuff going on in here. Let me share my screen. I got it pulled up. This love skill is really just designed to help you remember how to engage with empathy, even when you ain't feeling it, okay? Even when you're not feeling it, because listen, this is when you need it, okay? When you're not feeling it, it's when you really need this. The L is listen and look with suspended judgment. Now, I told you, your version of reality is about this big. You can only, even if the other person shared everything they could tell you about their day, you're still not privy to the hundreds of thousands of thoughts and emotions and other surges and urges that have happened in them in that day, just like they happened in you. So our interactions with other people are so superficial, but we've been taught to function like this for at least 400 years. So we got to break away from this. Listening and looking with your own judgment suspended allows you to help come up with a solution, not the one that fits how you would think about it, but the one that really works for the person with their deficit, with their lack of skill, with their ignorance, with their wherever they are. You're able to meet them there because you can suspend your version and understand theirs. The O is observe the emotions in all parties involved. And when I say the emotions in all party involved, what I mean is actually putting words and labels to, I don't know why this is doing this. When I put it on when I try to put it on the presentation mode, it goes to a different place. So anyway, we'll just do it like this. The O is observe the emotions in yourself and other people. Really actually applying words to how you feel is not a skill that most of us have been taught to have. We've been taught to ignore our emotions. We've been taught that we shouldn't have them. We're taught men don't have them, women have too much. Get out your feelings. We could go on, right? We already talked about we don't even know where the emotions come from. So we have definitely been taught highly dysfunctional information by our primitive ancestors. God bless them. They were doing the best they could. They didn't have MRI machines. And Jesus couldn't just be like, use your prefrontal cortex. I'm sure he tried. But anyway, okay. So the O is to observe the emotions in yourself and the other person, putting a label on it. So even if they are staring at you blankly, they still are feeling emotions. The V is to validate the differing perspectives. Oh, they will be different, but they're both valid. Your version of reality is not any more, I was about to say any more better. And then my brain was like, no, that is not it. Okay. Your version of reality is not higher or lower than any other person's version of reality. And all of us are very convinced of our own programming. So recognize that we need to validate, and this is not to say you don't have to agree with the other person, but to validate their perspective is to say, I hear you, I understand where you're coming from. And in fact, I could see how you could see it that way. Okay, I don't have to like it. I don't even have to agree with it. I might actually really be judging it really hard in my own head because it's not something I would have done or said or whatever. However, I can validate that why that other person would do it if I have used this skill correctly. The E is express yourself skillfully, creator. And the reason that I go back to expressing is because most of the time our words are what is so powerful in being able to hurt or heal or being able to destroy or to edify. And so when we are expressing ourselves and using skills, I'm the skills over pills doc. I firmly believe that learning how to control these parts of our brain, learning how to find better words is through use of skills that activate our higher brain, our more evolved self to communicate. And the reason that creator is on there is because I still go back to identity. It's really important for us to begin to work on controlling only what we have control over. We all are built looking at everybody else and being able to be like, look at you over there. You repetitive and you over there messing up. Look at you drinking. Look at you over there judging people, right? But guess what? Now is the time that we all have to turn that finger around and watch this animal and see where our own traumas are helping to fuel this cycle of trauma that we are existing in right now. And being able to recognize that when we put the work in to do our own self-healing, that we have a much better opportunity to heal other people. And right now there's so much trauma going around that there's plenty of stuff for you to work with. So I hope that I'm gonna wrap up my portion of this there, but I do hope that you join me in being able to work on aiming up, really working on awakening to our identity as human creators, becoming more informed about your biology, and then motivated to use skills to be able to practice more effectively with all of the stuff that's going on right now in this world. So I'm going to stop there, but I definitely am open to questions and hopefully some answers for you.
Thank you, Dr. Alana. Fantastic job. We are going to first put in a link tree in the chat. That is our survey tool. If you could click on that link tree, go down to the engagement survey and give us your comments. We recently found out we are now funded for another year. So we'll be doing another year of webinars or virtual or hopefully in person. But we really would like to know, has it been beneficial? Have you liked the topics? Are there other things you'd like to hear about? So if you could fill that out, that would be greatly appreciated. I did have a few questions sent to me, Dr. Alana. Can you talk a little bit about other mechanisms for coping and survival? So some mentioned were exercise, mindfulness. Talk a little bit about those.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that this is I'm going to list some things, but there's a smorgasbord of things. And I encourage people to draw from any of these that work for you. So she mentioned mindfulness and meditation, and I'm going to define mindfulness more so as really focusing on exercises that help you to slow down and focus in the moment of now and engage with all, I say 6 of your senses, because I do believe there's deeper senses, but your eyes, your ears, your taste, your sensations in your body, really learning how to wrangle your brain. And meditation is also, there's lots of different types of meditation. So when I first learned about meditation, I used to think of like the person sitting, repeating something, right? Like that is not all that meditation is. So I encourage you to look at guided meditations, but meditations can be more than just kind of sitting and umming. There's walking meditations, laughing meditations, there's sleep meditations. Meditation is so good for your body. And one of the reasons that mindfulness and meditation are so helpful from a biological standpoint is that our brain is doing about 70 to 125,000 thoughts per day. Okay. From the moment you wake up, your brain is, we talk about how much we have to multitask just to function in our society today. And if you think about it, technology has done this over the last 100 years, but this is still the same human brain. So now we're trying to shove a morning commute, 8 hours of work, meal prepping, exercising, and mindfulness and meditation into a healthy day. It's very difficult. So taking short pauses to allow your brain time to wind down and to help you learn how to control your thoughts instead of your thoughts controlling you is a really important part of a trauma process. So mindfulness and meditation, also journaling. I have had a journal for years. My posts are sporadic in my journal. However, when you write with your journal, it really does help pull out thoughts, especially if you're having repetitive thoughts, if you're having things that come back to you often. Writing about them helps your mind to feel like they had somewhere to go. So even if you just write out like what you're worried about, there's often times where in the process of writing it, you can identify places where you're thinking of it in an extreme, or even make a plan for what you can do about that thing that you're worried about. So taking things out of your head, even when it comes to lists, I'm a fan of making lists. Another thing to do to help your brain is to use a physical planner. Physical. I know it's big, I know it's bulky. There are smaller ones, but having a physical planner is different than using electronic planners and things in your phone. The reason that having a physical planner is helpful is right now, technologically, we're bombarded by so many things, and that tech is stimulating dopamine. So if you've ever felt like you got a buzz when you put your phone down, you do, because that phone in itself, even the screen gives a buzz, the lights give a buzz, like all of that stuff affects your brain and your brain chemistry. So actually writing things down and using something physical to help it come out of the digital cloud and a cloud of your brain, but actually be physically on paper, often helps with anxiety and can help you with processing and organizing yourself in a more holistic way. Mind mapping is another tool that people can use. I don't know if you've ever heard of mind mapping, but this is an example of my mind map. When you are feeling overwhelmed by something and you really want to get a bigger picture of it, writing down a word on a page and then drawing like the spokes of a wheel and just writing out the different elements that you would need to address. This could even be, you can mind map your life. You can write yourself down and mind map your family, each spoke of your wheel with your kids and what they may need and what you need, and putting your health first, because all of us have been taught the utter foolishness of putting our children, our husband, God, our wife, everybody before us. I don't have no issue with God, but everybody else, they need to step back behind you, because you actually have to come first in order to be able to give the best to your spouse and your family and other things. Yes, tapping. Someone mentioned tapping. Tapping is very helpful. Also, turning off your technology, taking breaks from social media, taking breaks from your phone. Turn off that news. You don't need it. Just check the weather on your phone. Know what's going on. Read your sources. Be careful about the sources that you get news from. If it drives your sense of dopamine or drives your sense of negativity, like even some of the reality shows and some of the news programming that people watch is full of opinions, is full of anger, aggression, extreme thinking, and other stuff that helps drive anxiety, depression, and a sense of trauma. So really controlling what comes in also can help. What else? I'm naming stuff. You got anything, Yvonne?
Another question came through. How can people further develop their PFC?
You can further develop your prefrontal cortex by really being intentional about activating it. Your prefrontal cortex is there, but it doesn't come on unless you ask it to. It's a tricky little booger, okay? And your brain will just answer for you and just have you going on about your business. But really being able to dig into more empathy skills. For example, I teach a skill called Dear Man, and it's a communication tool that helps when your amygdala kicks up. It helps activate that prefrontal cortex by strategizing, like describing the facts, expressing yourself in I statements, asserting what you want, and reinforcing why the other person would want to do what you asserted. So I have several skills that help to develop the prefrontal cortex. But the reality is that just knowing that you have it and knowing that it's important to turn it on can help you step back and be able to investigate a situation from a healthier perspective. So that empathy helps to activate that prefrontal cortex. So just the active use of it will help to tune it.
Another question came in, and I think everybody's probably thinking this. How do we undo or reverse all the bad behaviors we've learned through upbringing?
Well, that's a big old question, but the answer is still the same. Work on your trauma, recognizing like there's a lot of things that we have been programmed with through our upbringing, how we interpret ourselves when we look in the mirror, the words that we use for ourselves, whether we call ourselves too dark, too tall, too skinny, too gray, too fat, too loud, too this, too that. Not smart enough, not good enough, all of the imposter syndrome, all of the, when you're a Black person, what dysfunctional program in America hands us, men not supposed to feel like it's so dysfunctional that you can't even really, like, I firmly believe that we have not experienced healthy yet. I haven't met healthy yet. I haven't seen it anywhere in the world. Every culture has a remarkable disregard for emotions, and emotions are the language of the soul. Go figure. I don't think it's that hard to figure out once we understand the shift in priority, where we have to put the emotions into play. But I do believe that it's a matter of unlearning those behaviors. So being able to acknowledge, like, hey, my family member nitpicked me a lot, and now I find myself nitpicking my daughter, and now I see she nitpicks my granddaughter. I speak to it, I learn to apologize for it, and I learn to heal myself. And when I feel myself going into that nitpicking mode, I learn to pull myself from that addiction to criticizing, and heal myself and my family and speak love to them, and use that love skill, listen and look, observe the emotions, validate the different perspective, and express yourself skillfully, and it will help you. That's it.
Dr. Alana, two last questions, at least that I have on my phone that have come through. Can you describe what tapping is? What is the tapping technique? I went to a tapping class though a few weeks ago. But
yes, I went to a tapping class too. It's really interesting. There's a couple different versions of it. The one I'm most familiar with is emotional freedom tapping. And it's really about connecting to tapping certain parts of the brain, or really on the body, parts of the face, parts of like under the cheeks, in front of the ears, under the cheeks in this area, tapping on the chin. And there's a system to it, right? I don't actually know all about it, but the system to it is really about helping. It creates a soothing sensation. And I think it also helps to emotionally reset when people are in a really intense negative space. It gives them something to do physically and psychologically that helps pull that amygdala out of the spin, and then gives them more resources then to be able to reset before they go into, it also has a basis in trauma as well. So I know it's a really helpful tool to add, especially for kids. Kids really seem to enjoy it.
And there's a tapping app. So if you go to the store, the app store on your device, and type in tapping, there are lots of apps and even free apps. Dr. Lana, before I ask you the last question, someone wants to see the love slide again. Can you pull that up for me?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. And then the last question you started talking about, actually, we're going to talk a little bit about teaching children empathy from an early age.
Well, you know, I believe the children are the future too, but the adults are the ones that's got to get it together first. Okay. I tried to become a child psychiatrist, and the adults didn't like when I would tell them that I could not give them a pill for the thing that they need to work on. It's the grown-ups, y'all. The grown-ups, we have to work on our emotional resilience and our ability to demonstrate to the children what healthy emotions look like. They should be able to see us laugh, cry, love, hug, forgive, and process our own help and healing. And in the process of doing that and changing some of these generational programming and behaviors that we have learned, we will help the children to learn empathy. Because if you want to know the truth about it, empathy is a biological concept. It's programmed in all of us. And we are all born with the ability to empathize. That's the reason why a baby can cry and the other baby will cry too. Those mirror neurons will give that same experience in the babies. That's why when you see somebody run into a wall, you're like, ooh, like we empathize with other people because we can feel those things within each other if we wanted to, if we were willing to. Empathy is about a willingness to stretch yourself to that space. So do I have a shared? Can y'all see the love skill?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure. The reason that the children will heal, or the way that the children will heal, is for the adults to begin to learn how to speak more kindly and more gently, to be able to curb and correct in a healthier way, with respect to the fact that the kids have a somatosensory cortex and the adults have one too. I think when we set better examples of how to communicate and disagree in a healthy way, when we set examples of how to grieve in a healthy way and still be able to love each other through those pains, I think that our children will begin to heal. But I just similar to an airplane, the grown-ups got to put our mask on first. And that's really where we are as a society. Work on yourself first, and it will help your children and it'll help your grandchildren. But there is no getting around working on you first.
Thank you, Dr. Alana. Let's give Dr. Alana a hand. Thank you very much for the presentation tonight. I hope everyone takes away one resource, whether it's journaling, whether it's tapping, whether it's mindfulness, whether it's exercise. Really, let's work on all of us being empathetic, because if it all starts with us, we have a lot of work to do in order to help all of those around us. We are closing out the 22 year. We will be doing lupus on Saturday, followed by men's health the following Saturday, June 4th. And then we will close out with improving our brain health in African Americans, June 15th. So please continue to join us. If I don't have your information, please feel free to put your emails in the chat and continue to help us spread the word on the importance of education, but also the importance of clinical trials and clinical research. So thank you very much. Everybody have a great evening. Dr. Alana said it, but I will repeat it as I close out every webinar. COVID is real. Continue to wear your mask. If you have not been vaccinated, get vaccinated. If you have children and they have not been vaccinated, get them vaccinated and get those boosters. The numbers are rising and we're not sure what the fall entails. So we want to do all we can to prevent an additional outbreak this year. So thank you all very much. Have a great rest of the evening and be encouraged.